Good morning. Great to have you all here. Today I've got the pleasure of chatting to Professor Jessica Palmer, who is the Dean of the Otago Law Faculty. Hi Jessica, really great to have you here.
Morning, thank you for having me.
Yes, as you and I were just chatting prior, God, it's been an interesting year, hasn't it?
It has. It's been a very interesting year and a rather long one, and we're only halfway through.
Yes, indeed. I appreciate that. So I guess given what we've all been through over the last year, and particularly in the last 6 months, what are your thoughts and what are you starting to sense just around, I guess, the general New Zealand psyche and economy?
I think psyche-wise, we're very proud to be Kiwi at the moment. I think we've done a great job, and we can see what's going on around us internationally, and we can look at ourselves and say, we've had maybe we've had brilliant leadership, maybe we've had a willingness on the part of all of us to get stuck in. I was just last week talking to high school students, and we were using the current High Court case going through that's been brought by Borrowdale about the legality of COVID lockdown. And it seems to me there's a pretty good argument there that there were at least a few days where we were without legal authority for our lockdown and huge restrictions on our own freedom. And yet for me, what's fascinating about that is that as a country, we were on the whole willing to commit to that because we knew that there was something at stake, and it was worth the restrictions and the cost. And I think that that goes to show that the sense of loyalty and pride we have in making this a place where we can all work together and do well. So I think there's a sense of pride, there's a sense of achievement and confidence, but I think at the same time there's also that edge of nervousness that, again, watching around the rest of the world, we know how quickly this could tip again. I think most of us who are in organisations and in leadership are planning for the next wave of COVID in terms of what it looks like for lockdown. It's not it might happen, it will happen, it's just when. And I'm certainly seeing a greater acceptance amongst my own colleagues and staff that it probably will come again in terms of lockdown, and what are we going to do to approach it and deal with it. So I think happiness and pride, but tinged with a sense of anticipation. I think economically, I think we're at the end of the beginning rather than the beginning of the end. I think we're going to see a massive adjustment now as the wage subsidies finish, as mortgage repayments resume, as people figure out whether they really can continue in their businesses or not, and as we start to see government policies now being affected and modelled based on the massive fiscal debt we've just entered into. So I think longer term, some really big issues coming for us economically.
Yeah, absolutely. So given that, what are your thoughts about the legal landscape? Because of course it's been changing rapidly anyhow over the last several years, but what are your thoughts over the next kind of period?
I guess I would, in terms of business, I would divide it into the big business customers and the small entrepreneurs. I think we're going to see with big business a greater cost sensitivity, so much more concerned about the dollars and cents they might have been in the past, and at the same time, matched with that, the already greater scrutiny that we were getting in the last couple of years will continue in terms of a focus on internal cultures within law firms. Am I happy to support this particular firm? Are they treating their staff well? Is this going to be the firm that has a massive public fiasco arise because of something going on inside the firm? So I think it's am I getting value for money, and I can't afford the same kind of flexibility I had before, and do I like this firm in terms of how it approaches its values and its people? So I think those are big issues for the big money clients. I think we're going to see a huge rise in the number of small business entrepreneurial type organisations. And I think those kinds of one man, one woman bands, I think they have, because they're entrepreneurial already, they have a greater willingness and a greater confidence to act without getting comprehensive legal advice. So I think we're going to see firms either having to figure out how do they attract those clients in, how do they promise to give value for money, or we're going to see a lot more of the kind of carving up our legal services to do just bits of what used to be traditionally a full job, because those kind of entrepreneurial and younger clients are not going to want to pay for the whole deal and have greater confidence in their own ability to do it themselves. So I think different kinds of services or a differently motivated client is going to require us to think more differently about how we do our services. And I think it's also going to push a lot more of the kind of online, off-the-shelf type legal answers, that some would say are brilliant and have been a long time coming, and others would say extremely scary, and we might be creating more problems than solutions. So I think it's interesting to watch. I think the other thing worth commenting on is my sense is that we can see it even through COVID and lockdown, the rise in blogs and legal op-eds that are reaching the general mass media and the general population now, which I think shows or will at least cause an increased interest in legal issues, but also a sense again of this whole, I understand that, it makes sense. I read the op-ed and the spin-off. I totally get the legal issues here. So I wonder if we'll get a greater engagement from the general population on legal issues, but coupled with perhaps a slight unawareness of just how complicated those issues are.
Makes sense. Yeah, it makes sense. So you've touched on my next question a little, and amongst all that, clearly there is going to be some great opportunities as well.
Yeah, I think there will be. I think it's, as it always is in a service industry, it's about thinking about what your clients need, what's at stake for them, and how can you best respond to that and create a service and a product that meets their needs. Yeah.
And Jessica, you did mention, particularly a greater focus on culture and a greater focus on, is this somewhere that I want to work, or is this a client, is this a business I want to do business with?
Yeah.
So the concept of health and well-being is going to be, I think, much more vital and enhanced around organisational performance.
Yep.
What are your thoughts about how we can enhance that particular profession?
And as someone who is an educator of 18 to 25-year-olds in general, they are extremely concerned about health and well-being and far more mindful of it than they have been in years. And they will be the new wave of employees coming through.
Yes.
I think that the only real authentic way to deal with this is to ensure that staff health and well-being is actually a true value in your organisation, and what kinds of policies, what kinds of goals, what measurements are you using that show that you're actually genuinely committed to health and well-being. And so I think, unfortunately, the answer is not a quick, easy fix. It's we need to stop. And a lot like we've had a massive focus in the last couple of years on culture, it's the same thing. Stop and say, do all of our employment practices, do all of the ways in which we deal with our clients, do they actually show that we care about health and well-being? But I think maybe on the other hand, or on the other side of the coin, is to say that I also think, and again, this I guess is coming from my experience, spending a lot of my working life with younger people, is we also need to help encourage within our colleagues and our employees a sense in which change and a desire for constant improvement are non-negotiables in our working environment, that they are things that if we don't pursue, we will end up, behind on the 8 ball and we'll start to struggle. And those things, that change and that desire for improvement, they require energy. Yes. And so they require resilience, and that will feed into health and well-being. So, in older traditional organisations, sometimes staff align change with, you don't care about us, and therefore you don't care about our health and our well-being. And I think we need, and particularly as we move into a much more digital economy, change will just be an inevitable fact of life for us. So we have to create, resilience and an understanding of health and well-being that includes the openness to change.
Yes. Yeah, makes sense. So, any tips for yourself? How do you personally build your resilience?
Yeah, a few things. exercise and physical health really important for me, so taking some time out to do that. I do it with a group of other people, so I'm a regular gym goer in the mornings, and you know, that has two benefits for me. It keeps me healthy and fit, but I'm also doing it with a bunch of people who I wouldn't come into contact with in my normal, regular, day-to-day working life. And so it's lovely to develop a different group of people who see things differently and have different ideas, different mindsets. And for all of us, it's our special happy place at 5:45 in the morning. I think the other thing that's really important for all of us is to get some, I mean, it's what managers and performance coaches call balcony time. You know, get some time away, looking down at what you do, looking at all of the aspects of your life and your job, and just taking stock. Is it working or not? I'm personally hopeless at carving out that time in my diary myself. It just gets filled up with meetings and classes and appointments. So knowing that that's my weakness, I'm not good at doing it myself. I create some friendships around me, people that I know will be honest enough to help me to reflect and give me that balcony time. How am I going? What's going on? So, you know, having that kind of council of advisors around me is really, really important. So for me, it's that physical exercise, and it's having people to talk regularly to, and to give me a sense of, you know, am I on track here, or to give me a bit of a kick up the backside to say, you're seeing this in totally the wrong way. And you know, in line with that, I need people who will help me to celebrate the triumphs and help me to kind of dissect the challenges and the losses. Yeah.
Yes. Very true, Jessica. I see it as well. You know, I often say to people, sometimes you have to pause and step out to step back in, but our lives get so busy, doesn't it?
Yeah, they do. They really do.
Balcony time, you said, is hugely important, just to recalibrate.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So it might be a bit of a tough question, but if you were to reflect and think, what is perhaps the single biggest learning for me over this period, given that, you know, who'd have known that we'd have been in this place? What would be common?
When you asked this question in prep, I thought it was a great one, and I came up with two answers. The first one is, and I think most people would agree on this, that in times of crisis like we have been through in the last few months, I think that's when great leaders really show their strength, and they come to the fore in terms of showing how organised they are, how clear their communication is, how confidently they're operating despite the uncertainties. I think, you know, most of us will have experienced leadership in our own jobs, and also, you know, regionally and nationally in this period. And some examples where we've seen leaders make quick, clear decisions despite not having enough information, because that's the role of a leader. And then leaders who haven't made those decisions quickly enough, and by the time they finally got there, it was just that little bit too late, because they were too busy waiting for the data. And unfortunately, you know, crises are crises because you don't have enough certainty in data, and you just have to make a call. Yes. And so I think, that would be one of my lessons, that we've watched some great leadership in our own smaller circles, and then also nationally. I think the second one for me is, as a leader, is that I really appreciate and have learned that people are far more resilient than they think they are. And that a crisis is a great time to see that resilience come to the fore. So, you know, there was a bit of a sense of, you know, the sky is falling, how are we going to cope? And the reality is, well, we just have to cope. And as we did, we all showed our resilience. And I mean, I hope the same is for you, but in my workplace, amongst my colleagues, lots of little moments of triumph and victory as they learned new skills, and we, you know, had to convert to complete online teaching, and watching students too, who thought, there's no way I can do it. This is not what I planned. I can't deal with this. And yet they did, and they've come out, you know, they've grown in confidence, they've grown in a sense of unity with each other because they've shared this burden together. So for me, it was just a reminder that actually, you know, we do talk a lot about health and well-being and resilience, and I think we talk about it with a negative frame, that we're not quite there yet. And in actual fact, we are really resilient, and crises are a great time to see that happen.
Look, I'm smiling because I think, you know, often we don't stop and pause and go, hey, look, given what it was, and yes, it wasn't what we all hoped, but look at what we've done. The importance of doing that and celebrating those, you know, I often say it's the incremental little things as well that we miss that are actually really important.
That's right. Yeah. And I mean, you know, we were saying at the beginning of this catch up that, you know, I said, oh, I'm feeling quite tired because it's been a long year and it feels like it should be the end of the year by now. And we've got another 4 or 5 months to go. But you're absolutely right. It's the perspective you put on it. So yes, that's true. And yet at the same time, if you stop and look backwards, wow, we've done really well. Yeah. And let's celebrate it.
Yeah. And being able to hold both, because sometimes, you know, we
Right.
can go into the binary. So
Yeah.
it's okay to hold both. Say, look, it has been tough and it wasn't what we expected. And look at what we've done.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. And I know that you're tired, so take it easy. And for goodness sake, take some annual leave.
Jessica, it's been great. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you for your time. And
Lovely
do look after yourself. And remember that. Take your balcony time.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephen.
Have a good day. And that's us signing off.